Hello to you once again, and this is the second problem in the Hastings duo of problems from 1895, and yet again it's white to checkmate in two moves. As I made clear in the first problem, usually where there's a checking move that black can play, you must come up with a checking move as the key move. Well, as was seen in that problem, that wasn't the case. It proved to be an exception to the rule. We're not troubled in this one with black having any checking moves because, as you can see, he doesn't. There's nothing that he can do at all. He has 5 pieces and none of them can give check, certainly not the king. So we don't need to trouble ourselves with that. We don't need a checking move. We need a key move that will finish black in 2 moves. Now, the major difficulty here, and the way to solve this, is that you need to look at what black could do if it were black's first move to counter with your key move. And in doing so, it shows you, I shan't go through all of it, you put it to the test yourself, but it shows you that the knight here is the major stumbling block no matter what white tries and does. I'll just give you 2 examples. If you come here, for instance, with the idea of inflicting checkmate by bishop d3, he can stop it by playing there, and at once there is no mate in 2. Alternatively, if you play the bishop to c8 with the intention of taking on f5, he just takes your rook and stops you from doing that. So what you have to do there is you have to look for a move that will take advantage of black not having any device once he moves the knight. Now, what is that move? That is the question. This took me a wee bit longer to solve than the first one because of that knight. That is the difficulty, and whoever composed this came up with an ingenious idea here. The other pieces, the 2 bishops and then the pawn, don't really cause you any problems at all, because if you think about this, just to give an example, if black were to take the knight there, he's self-blocking, and consequently the queen backed up by the bishop, that is checkmate. This is a similar theme to in many of the problems that I've put on to do with the strategies of chess from 1817. So let's just go back for a moment. That is the original position. Just take a good look at that. So taking the knight would not be a problem. Equally, advancing the pawn wouldn't be a problem because it then opens up the bishop to cover the knight, and queen f5 equally is checkmate. So the knight is the problem, believe you me. So how do you get around this? What is the key move there? Well, there's only one key move to do it, as should be the case, and it's not a checking move. Congratulations indeed to whoever's found it. It is queen f6. Now, let's just go through what we were saying here. If he moves the pawn, checkmate. No doubt about that. If he takes the knight, like that, then, like I demonstrated just a few moments ago, he's self-blocking, like in so many stratagems of chess, right here. He has no flight square. If the pawn were here, then he would have a flight square, but it isn't, and that is checkmate. So no doubt whatsoever about any of that. So that the pawn either moving to c5 or taking the knight, it doesn't work. What about if he moves this bishop here? What is the logical move here? Well, it doesn't matter where he puts it. It really makes no odds at all. Let's just see why it doesn't. Well, the obvious move is to play here. He's taking away the protection there. So how do we get around this? What do we do? Well, what we do is we take off like that. And if you look at that position, that is checkmate, isn't it? All the squares are covered. So that doesn't work. However, we must consider what happens if he takes the bishop or moves anywhere else down here. Well, then you see, we can just go ahead and do that, because in moving the bishop, the queen now covers the knight, which would otherwise be a flight square for the black's king by way of capturing the knight on d5. And that is checkmate. No doubt about that. So, let's just put that back. What about capturing the queen? How does that work? Well, that's fine as well, because we take the bishop back, and as can be seen, you're now covering d5 with your knight. The bishop covers e5 and f4, and the pawn is still here to cover d4, so everything is covered in that position. No problem. Let's go back. This is after the key move of queen f6. What about if the king takes the knight? Well, that's okay. Just let's take another look at that. Yeah, that's fine, because we can come in like that, and I think you'll find that that is checkmate. Yes, it is. So that's no problem. So we've looked at the pawn move, the pawn capture, the bishop moves, bishop taking the queen, king taking. What about if this bishop moves? Does that make any difference at all? What about if he does this? How do we deal with that then? Because now we can't take here because of the knight. Well, what we do is we just grab the knight then. If you notice, the bishop is pinned with a rook, and that is equally checkmate. So that doesn't work. Now we come to the difficult situation, the knight. So what happens if he takes the rook? Well, this is why it's not a difficult situation, because as soon as he moves the knight, he no longer has any protection on his bishop on e5, and that is checkmate. And if you notice, no matter where else he moves that knight, we did demonstrate down here, should white have played bishop a6, it's the same result. You can get away with playing that, no problem. And so that is the end of this two-mover, and a very interesting one it is. You did require queen f6, and like I say, it took a bit of a while to get it, so if you can manage to do it, your chess is pretty useful indeed. I trust that you enjoyed both of these problems, and in the future, should I come across anything else like this, either by searching purposely for it or by accident, I shall certainly bring them to you. And goodbye for now.